everybody, Fradham here, and tonight we're going to take a look at Elementary OS. This is a fairly new Linux distribution that's gained some popularity recently, and it's an Ubuntu-based distribution. And the last time I tried to review it, I couldn't even get it. I got it to install, but it wouldn't give me full screen. It had issues with the video drivers. And I think we might have better luck this time. The latest version is 0.4. That's how new it is. It's not even in the whole numbers yet. So we're going to run it in a VirtualBox. And we're just going to go ahead and do this fresh, new. In case you're not familiar with it, it'll be something that you can learn how to do VirtualBox too. So with VirtualBox, we just click the new icon, and it's pretty simple. We'll give it a name, Elementary OS, and I know it's an Ubuntu base, so I'm going to leave it on Ubuntu 64-bit, and hit next. My system has a lot of RAM, so you usually don't want to use all your RAM. At the most you want to use half, but I have 32 gigs, so I'm going to give it 8 gigs of RAM. Going to create a virtual disk. I usually just stick with the defaults. I don't know what the differences are between the three. Different technology, I guess. Maybe more portable to other VM systems, but I just stick with the VDI. I do dynamically allocated, so that way it doesn't use up all the disk space at once. It just uses what it needs, and then as the disk grows, it'll grow the disk up to the maximum that you set it at. So that's what the dynamically allocated does. So I tend to give my systems, for testing, 60 gigabytes. And we go ahead and create. And now the next step is you have to go in and point the virtual CD-ROM drive to the ISO image. That way it'll boot off it. So you go to Storage under Settings. You'll see Controller IDE, and we have an empty underneath that where it looks like a little CD. So you click there, and then we can just browse to the operating system. So we'll choose. And the latest one is 0.4. This 0.3.2 I had problems with. So this is my second attempt at this. So 0.4. And we click OK. And now we hit Start. That's like turning your computer on. So that's the power on button. And we'll get a little window. Now the first time I tried this a little earlier just to make sure it would run. And the boot up sequence for this system was a little different than what I'm used to seeing. It came up with some weird errors. There you go. PW convert, failed to change the mode. And then it lists all these services. So the startup screen is a little different than what I'm used to seeing in other Ubuntu releases and even in my Antergos release. So I'm going to go full screen with this. Let it boot up. So like most modern systems, you will see that it goes up into a try or install dialog box. Okay, I'm going to move myself down to the bottom of the screen here so that I'm not as much in the way. Okay, so we're going to just go ahead and go straight to install on the Elementary. And one of the things they advertise for this distro is that it's really easy to use and that it's a replacement for Windows or Mac. So I'm expecting a Mac-like environment. But it's not a Mac emulator or a Windows emulator, so I think their wording can be misleading to a new user. So just be aware that it's just going to look like Mac or Windows. It's not going to be Mac or Windows. So I'll go ahead and hit install. This looks like the standard Ubuntu style installer. So we wanted to download updates, and you do install third-party software, graphics, and Wi-Fi hardware stuff so that things work out of the box. So I always recommend doing that on Ubuntu style installers. Continue. We want to erase our entire disk. You can encrypt if you want. If this is going to be your permanent install and you're worried about security, you can encrypt your drives. I don't typically do it. I don't see the point in it. LVM is nice. That's a partitioning schema that I use it in the server world. I'll use LVM because you can resize disks on the fly, but for home use I wouldn't worry about it. Maybe for a virtual it'd be a good idea because you can add more disk space through the virtual console and then use LVM to resize, but for this demo we're not going to bother. So install now. Write changes, yes. So that's a typical warning. Pick my time zone, that's good. Antergos never got that right on the first try. I think the newer Antergos installers has been picking my time zone correctly, which has been nice because I've done several installs since my original. So English, US. And my name, Fratum. We'll call this EOS. Username Fratum. Super secret password. Require password to log in. Encrypt my home folder. See more encryption here. I'm not going to bother with it. Log in automatically. I set that up on my son's computer when I first set it up, and just found that it's not a good idea, even for a system you know other people aren't going to use. It's just better to have a password. The reason I did it on my son's, he's 5 years old and he can't remember passwords. So what happens is the screensaver kicks on or the computer goes to sleep and it still will end up prompting for a password. I know there's ways around it, but I ended up just setting a password that he could spell, and it just worked out better for him. Plus it gets him used to how computers really work in the real world. Most computers do require a login and password nowadays, so I'd just rather have him familiar with that. So I recommend not using that, but that's your choice. And we're installing. So we'll cut here and come back when it's done because there's really nothing. We don't get a nice splash screens like some of the other distros do, talking about what features it has. So I'm just going to cut the video here and we'll be back in a minute. Okay, and we're back. It took approximately 5 minutes to install this OS. Now this was in a virtual box through a ISO image, so it's going to be a little faster than if you were doing an install from a USB stick or from a DVD drive. So just keep that in mind. Installation times really depend on your system and how you're installing. But this is about the typical length for an install for me. Now I do want to disclaim that one thing, I had to reinstall. The install method that you saw me start with failed, and it was probably my fault because I was playing around with VirtualBox while it was installing, and I went to full screen mode and it caused everything to freak out, and it hung installing a package and it got stuck on that one package. So I think I killed it. So I reinstalled. I did all the same exact settings that you saw in the beginning of this video, and now this is the installation from the reinstall, and it went flawless. There was no issues, and I timed it. It was just a hair under 5 minutes. So here we are at the login screen. Oh, I do want to point out it does have a guest account, guest session that you can log in with. I'm not sure how limited that is or what, but I'm starting to see that a lot in other distributions, and you know, they've had that in the Mac and the Windows world for a long time. And hopefully you can disable that. I bet you can. So we're logging in for the first time, and there's our desktop. And already the system has 3 updates, which I thought it would have taken care of those on the installer, but it evidently didn't. So to do updates on the system, you go to the App Center, and this is kind of like their own little app store. And then you go to Updates, and Update All. So we'll just go ahead and do that real quick. Authenticate, of course. Always have to authenticate. Looks like it did an OS update, so we might have to reboot. So we'll wait and see what happens there. Okay, so no message about updating. This theme is weird. I'm not used to having my X on the left-hand side, so I keep going to the right and then going, whoa, there it is. Okay, so our system's up to date. So basically this comes with, right out of the box, it comes with the Epiphany browser, which is a WebKit-based browser. So it's probably similar to Chrome or Safari. I'm not familiar with it, and to be honest with you, this is the first time I've really heard of it in this particular system. So I'm getting a little bit of slow screen refreshing, and I think that is because it did not install the VirtualBox Guest OS driver, since I'm running this in VirtualBox. So I tried installing that manually before, right after the install, and it didn't seem to work, so might have to tweak with that a little bit. So meanwhile, it's slow on scrolling, especially in the browser. We shouldn't have any issues running videos because it is a WebKit based browser, which most browsers except for IE are based on WebKit now. So, oh man, it's really laggy. Okay, so I'm gonna just close out of that. I think that's a driver issue on my part, so if this was being installed on a proper machine, it probably would not be that slow. So I would probably, the first thing I'd do is probably install Chrome or Chromium, probably Chrome. Then it comes with a mail program, which I don't really want to set up for my email right now because I just use the web app. So it does come with a mail app, and then a calendar. Calendar's kind of nice. You can add a new calendar, and you can link it to a CalDAV. So I think Microsoft uses CalDAV or Google Calendar. So that would be, you'll be able to sync up your online calendar with that. That's a nice feature. A music player. It looks like their own music player. I'm not familiar with this interface, so I'm not sure what it is. And I couldn't find a help about for this. There's not much here. So, but at least you can play some tunes. It looks similar to like the old style iTunes. Video player, same story. Have no idea what video player this is or if it even works because I don't have any videos on here, but it comes with video player. So I would probably replace those two with ones that I prefer for my music and my videos, like VLC for the video player, and for the music player, I don't know, I kind of just stick with streaming music, so that's why I'm not familiar with that. And then a photo viewer. Again, no way of telling if this is their own software or if it's third party. And then our system settings. This is very similar. Oh, let's see if we can get rid of that guest account. Oh, there it is. See, guest account, disable. Okay, hold on. I gotta unlock, authenticate, and then disable the guest account. There we go. That's the way to do it. And then for other default, this is the view that you usually see. A bunch of icons. This is very GNOME 3. See, I like this view, so I can break it down. So under accessories, you can calculator, screenshot, we saw that update, scratch pad, graphics, internet. Nothing under Office. That's kind of odd because it seems like a lot of distros now at least come with LibreOffice pre-installed, especially with an ISO that's 1.2 or 1.4 gigabytes. You would think it would come with LibreOffice. So you're gonna have to install an Office suite. Unless you use Google Apps, then you can just use the web interface. But I like both. I use Google Apps and I use LibreOffice for when I need to work on something on my local machine. Sound and video, those we saw. Camera app, I don't have a webcam hooked up to this VM, so won't be able to look at that. And then System Tools, Settings, File Browser, or File Manager. Okay, that looks like your typical everyday file manager system. So there's nothing new there. I'm in Terminal. Nice looking terminal. I don't know what, again, I don't know what terminal this is. I'm almost wondering if it's like the Mac where you have to go. No, I was looking for like the Apple menu or somewhere you can go about. And it is using kernel 4.4. That's nice. Based off of Debian version stretch SID, so that's, I don't think that's the current, but I think that's what Ubuntu is based on. I don't know what version of Ubuntu this is based on, but it's got to be pretty current. They'd be silly not to at least keep up with them. So that's the basics of it. It's a pretty system. You get the nice little button bar down here, but to be honest with you, you can install something like that on any Linux distribution. The one I use a lot is called Docky, I think. I always get it mixed up with that container thing. So I don't think I would pick this distribution just based on this bar. Installation was super easy, but it looked like a typical Ubuntu type installation. The App Center is just an App Center, so I don't see anything in this that would make me switch. If I was already running something like, if I was used to a distribution, say like Mint, Linux Mint, or any of the other Ubuntus, or even just plain old Ubuntu, I don't think this would sway me towards it. I don't think it's offering me anything special or anything above and beyond that would... Oh, okay, there it is, the calculator app. I'd switch for that. Just sarcasm. But it's pretty. If you're looking to get into a new Linux distro and you want to try something new, this is probably a good one to check out, especially if you like the Ubuntu world and you like this Docker style. It's nice. It is what it is. It's getting to the point where Linux distributions are either Red Hat based, like Fedora, or Ubuntu based, like this one, or Linux Mint, or Arch base, and Tergos, Arch of course, and there was another one I looked at the other day, but I can't remember what it's called. So we're getting down to like 3 major popular top 3 environments, and once you get into that one environment you like, it just seems like they're all the same. There's really no difference. Once you customize it to the way you like it, if you've been using Linux for a little while, you know what you like, you know what desktop environment you like, you know what backgrounds you like, you know what dock tool you like, if you even want to use a dock tool. So either you're going to get rid of it or you're going to put the one you like. So it just, once you get it installed, it's going to be what you want it to be. And to me, it just seems like it's getting silly how many offshoots of Ubuntu, offshoots of this, offshoots of that there are out there nowadays. In my opinion, if you want to try something new and you've been in the Ubuntu world all along, switch to Fedora. Switch to Arch if you really want to try something new. Try Gentoo, OpenSUSE. Those are all different. You want to get... If you don't want to feel like you're just running the same old system with a prettier skin, try a different operating system or a different version of Linux that's based on a whole different packaging system and go from there. Overall, it's okay. I feel like I'm running Ubuntu with GNOME 3 in a pretty little dock program. So that's my opinion of Elementary OS 0.4. something. I'll post it. I can't remember what it was. So I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. Comments and questions below. I try to answer every question that's relevant or directed at me. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, that way you get notified whenever I do new videos. And occasionally I do live streams. I haven't done one in a couple weeks, but I plan on doing one this week. So, have a wonderful night and take care. Bye-bye.